First of all, to let you know that the Artful Evening, which is scheduled for Thursday, July 20th at 6 o'clock, will feature Michiko Yoshimoto, who's coming from WMU's Soga Japan Institute, and will be presenting a sushi making workshop. Sad to say that I guess the good news is it's very popular and is sold out. So that means if you're interested, you can put your name on a waiting list at the back desk and maybe hope for the best. So again, the workshop is sold out, and we are accepting a waiting list for everyone. Well, hopefully by now we've all had a chance to see the exhibition, Sugoi, 200 Years of Japanese Art. And it's really a two-part exhibition. One part covers the period of the classic ukiyo woodcuts up to the present time, and features some contemporary Japanese artists. It also includes a second part, which consists of Japanese video from 1966 to 1994, which was a key period in the development of this new art form in Japan. As you can see, it's a really ambitious exhibit, and in the underlying themes or ideas is how Japanese artists have responded to their society and environment during times of great change. And really lots of thought and planning have gone into an exhibit like this. And to share the goals and behind the scenes work that was involved, we're very fortunate to have with us today KIA Chief Curator Rehema Barber and KIA Associate Curator Katherine Ransbottom. I should say, in addition to this exhibit, which is really striking, they've also been responsible for the really wonderful use of the permanent collection in some new and exciting ways, bringing in works from other institutions or lenders to supplement what we have here. And I just think they really deserve a great deal of credit for the real the permanent collection has risen to. So, without further ado, please welcome Rehema Barber and Katherine Ransbottom.
How did I make it up here without you? Okay, let me see. Is that working? Oh, not yet.
Hello. Oh, that was quite loud. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Greg. We really appreciate this. I also have to just say a few things. I have to thank Katherine Ransbottom for joining me up here. I know you all normally get a lecture, but we're going to do a little bit of a conversation in this particular format. And I'd like to thank Joy and Timothy Light. Their support over these last years has been tremendous to us to make sure that we're giving you the best that we can as far as our exhibitions and our programs that highlight the arts of East Asia. And so this is a real delight to be up here to talk about it. So we'll get started. Yes, I'm gonna hand it to you.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think it's on.
you can hear me? It doesn't.
Yeah, you hit the button. She hit a button. Now we're having technical. Yeah, you know.
Okay. So Sugoi is presented in two parts. Hopefully everyone has had the chance to see the exhibitions, but we have down in our lower level in the Joylight Gallery of Asian Art, we have Sugoi Japan in Video 1966 to 1994. Mm-hmm. And then in the main level galleries, we've got Sugoi 200 Years of Japanese Art. So they're two different exhibitions, but they fall on the same themes. And this was really your idea. So maybe not to have it in two exhibitions, but I guess I'm wondering if you can tell us about how it started and maybe how it ended up differently than what you were originally envisioning.
Sure. So, we do 4 different presentations in the Joylight Gallery. We tried to do 4 different presentations.
And I was just thinking about, I really have a deep appreciation and love for the arts of Japan. And I was like, we have this really great collection. Is there a way to center the collection and also talk about, the sort of lasting artistic vibrancy of Japan? And I think we started with video because I really like video work and I don't always get to present it. But I also think that there have been some tremendous pioneers in video that we don't necessarily always see in American institutions. So for instance, Maku Adamitsu, and of course, I've also put in an outlier, which was Namjoon Park, but we'll get to that in a second. So I said Idemitsu, I didn't say Kubata, and then Amura. Those are pioneers in Japanese sort of filmmaking and video artwork. So I really wanted to go there and sort of talk about the idea that some of the video art, because when you see video art, you see a lot of American works, you see a lot of British works, but you don't always see Japanese video. And I think that that's really, a shame. So I wanted to start out with video work. And what was really interesting about including someone like Namjoon Park, even though he is of Korean descent, is he had this great video that if you go down there, you'll see is called Waiting for Commercials. And I thought like, wow, like what a way to turn the sort of main event, as far as, we watch a program and you always turn down the commercials, or that's your time to go get popcorn or soda or a break to do something else. But this idea of turning a thoughtful eye towards commercials and looking at them from the framework of Japanese culture was really interesting to me. Not to mention he was married to one of the artists, Kubata, I want to say the Cherry Blossoms. So I thought that was a really interesting connection. And so for me, then I started saying like, oh, there's a lot of American impulse and influence in some of these works. And I really wanted to make that sort of connection. I like to make connections that show how other cultures are looking at American culture. And if you look at Waiting in Commercials, it's very much so like they've kind of stripped it, stripped some of the American culture and infused it into the Japanese culture, which I really appreciate. And it's a very, very sort of tongue-in-cheek video, in my opinion. And so I've been, just looking at a lot of different artists, pioneers in the field, and certainly like Mariko Mori, she's not in the show, but I really wanted her to be in the show because she's done a lot of futuristic work. And to be honest, I have to credit someone like her as being the first person that first artist that made me think about contemporary art and even have an appreciation for it. So this was a unique opportunity to do that. And then also being able to center our collection. That's just been our mission. We want to show the KIA community and our, neighbors that we're in the game here when it comes to collecting. And I think that we have a very robust program and we try and do some really different work. So that was another thought behind it. And then at the end of the day, I just, you've seen a lot of Japanese art making for me. So can you tell I really like Japanese art? So I mean, like really that's been a highlight for me to be able to sort of explore my interest in the arts of Japan. Sorry, it was a long answer to a short question.
In regards to the videos, we weren't initially planning on, or necessarily planning on, including.
Can you talk closer to the microphone, please?
I can try. Okay. That's awkward. We weren't initially intending to put them all together in one gallery. We were talking about potentially having them dispersed out. But I really like that we did that. Video is something that you started to show more here as a curator. It's not something we have in the collection, but I think it, we had sort of a unique, as you said, it's sort of innovators of it. I think it was nice that we put those in one gallery by themselves.
Yeah. I also think that one of the things about putting it in the context, having videos in one place, I mean, we spend so much time with digital media, right? And so when we think about our audience, I think that was really one of the things that kind of changed that decision, right? We thought we're gonna interject here and interject there, but it was like, what if we made this area that people could just come and sit down like they would maybe in their homes or in a larger museum, and think about, these differing medias in the context together. I think that we did a good job of sort of even laying them out. A lot of thought goes into layout. If any of you don't know, we do several iterations of saying like, this is where this is going to go, this is where that's going to go. And then when we get into the gallery, it totally changes. So just so you know, because we have an idea of it, but then sometimes you get it in there and it just says, oh no, that's not the wall that this needs to be on, or this piece really looks so much better in conversation with this other thing. So yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the exhibition has maybe 4 themes that we sort of divided in half. We have nature and humanity, which looks at how Japan's natural landscape has influenced the artists. And then in that, we're also looking at how like industrialization and urbanization caused a change in Japan for the citizens and the artists, and also how sort of isolationism and the end of isolationism affected the art world and the art market. And then we're also looking at innovation in society, which looks at how artists have preserved cultural heritage, like the fashion and theater posters that were made. Also how they've innovated their practice and also challenge maybe the norms that society has given. So do you want to speak to any of those?
Sure. I think that there's lots of innovation in this particular show, whether it's the video, whether it's ceramic-based works, whether it's printmaking. We were the beneficiaries of a really nice recent gift by Stan Rajnik. So we and his sister, I'm saying. And, it was really great to be able to say, oh gosh, we're going to be able to use these objects right away. That's something that we really like to do. And looking at the diverse ways of printmaking is really important because we have such a robust printmaking department here in the Kirk Newman Art School. So, and that's another thing that we think about a lot when we're collecting works, when we're putting shows together. We think about how the school can use these exhibitions. They're for you, certainly, and we love that. We love that you all come and visit us and see us, but we also want to make sure that our students feel like they can get something from these exhibitions. So, the different styles of printmaking were really important for us to include because, like I said, we have a robust printmaking department. Or looking at different techniques in ceramics. We have a tremendous ceramics department here. And so for me, I'm always thinking about how we can help elevate our students and elevate conversation at the same time. And so I think when you look at somebody, like I don't think that we have Subosa, but we have the Oishi Sakaya work behind me. That's an incredible piece because it's an apple, but then when you look at it more closely, it also has animals and there are human forms in there. And so for those of you that know anything about the KIA and how we do like tours for students and tours for the public, we employ something called visual thinking strategies, which basically just asks what's happening in this image. And so you have that sort of aspect that's happening as well when we're thinking about these exhibitions. And then I also think, when Katherine, you and I were putting this together, we thought a lot about Japanese society and theater and how certain aspects of theater are really central to Japanese culture and have carried through. So we really wanted to sort of make that highlight as well.
One of the things I really like about my job is continuing to find new artists. So I have to thank you because I was not familiar with this next artist and you were, and brought her to my attention and brought her to the exhibition, and you got to visit her. So can you tell us a little bit about your studio visit with Mommy Kato and how you found her?
Yeah, sure. And I think Mommy is maybe coming here. Yes, I see that and not. So Mommy is, I'm glad that we convinced her to do a talk, to come to Kalamazoo and do a talk. So Mommy is originally, she immigrated here to the United States from Japan, and she is such a unique artist in that, you know, what actually happened, I'll give you a little story, my little rundown of it, I'll try and be brief. Someone had approached me, or her gallery had approached me about a different artist and potentially acquiring work by this artist. And so I looked them up because I wanted to see, you know, what they were talking about and who they were. And I started looking at their program, and Mommy just stood out tremendously. And I said, oh gosh, I gotta have her in this show. And I was really lucky to do a studio visit with her and talk to her about her processes. And I'm glad to introduce her to Kalamazoo because she is a meticulous artist. So for instance, the work that's in our show called Umbilical Field, go back to that one, I'm sorry, is made up of like rice stalk, right? And so she was like, this is really a material, like a rope that is used in sort of farming and agricultural endeavors. And it also, she said, there are also like shoes that could be made from this as far as like snowshoes. And I said, oh wow, this is really interesting. But what she does is her process is so meticulous that she like unbraids this robe, and then she decides she's gonna make these forms, and it goes through several iterations of sculpting. And then if you go back to the other slide, no, the one you're at. This image right here, that's an image I took because they're eggshells. And I said, what? Like, how are you carving eggshells? How are you cutting eggshells? You're putting them together, and you have this very intricate practice. And she said, very carefully, of course. And so for me, I have a deep appreciation for that sort of methodicalness, that sort of like attention to detail. This particular piece here is a drawing on a light, sort of like a light table right here, you can see, but she used needles to create the image and then went in and hand colored it. So like when I see an artist like that, I think, you know, I gotta highlight someone like that spends so much time in creating an image for us to enjoy. And it's as much about, you know, the end result as the process. So the work itself is one thing, but the process is another. And I like being able to sort of show that, knowing how hard that artists work. I'm a big fan of artists, as you can see. So yeah, I thought that she really fit in well. And to be honest, she was a late addition to our list. We had lots of people on our list. But I was really happy to include her because she is an artist that is tremendously popular within her community. She resides in Philadelphia and is getting lots of attention in other places. So I thought this would be a great way to introduce her to the Midwest, to our community, and I'm really just thrilled to have her. I'll be looking forward to hearing her do her talk coming soon. Now I have usually she has to give me back the microphone because this is her artist, and I have to give Katherine lots of credit because when we were sitting down and putting this all together, we were like, well, are we gonna do this chronologically? Are we gonna do this thematically? And as you can see, the themes won out. But, you know, when she brought this artist to my attention, I was just like, oh, wow, this is great work. So I'm curious to know how you came across Kazuhito's work and what really interests you about his work and process.
She didn't think I was gonna ask her a question.
It's embarrassing to admit, but Instagram is how I found his work. One of the artists that was in the Natural Forms exhibition, which we had in 2019, connected with me on Instagram, and I forget if she was in a show or just sharing a show of his work in early 2020, and I instantly loved it. And I was trying to track down a place, and you happened to have a trip going to LA, and there was a gallery in LA that happened to have his work, so I asked you to please go and look and bring something back for us to borrow, and you did, so I appreciate that. Kazuhito was born in 1984, which makes him a millennial for us. In Japan, the millennial generation is called the lost generation because of a little bit of, not despair or lack of opportunity, but something like that. You know, they were raised in the 90s and there was a big economic boom in Japan and things seemed great. And then as folks our age sort of came of age, that changed. So a lot of his works still latch on to 90s pop culture. This work is called Undercooled, which is the same name as the song by a famous Japanese composer and artist. I'm probably gonna mess his name up. Ryuichi Sakamoto, who is a famous composer. He did music for Little Buddha, The Last Emperor, The Sheltering Sky. So very well known in Japan. And so a lot of his pieces are titled after pop songs, Madonna songs. But also one piece that we didn't get to show logistically, we had some, oh, it is playing. Sorry, it's gonna play for just a moment.
Nice commercial break.
God, sorry about that. This is a piece that we had wanted to borrow, and we couldn't quite make it work. It's called Machida, which is a city outside of Tokyo, in the Tokyo metropolitan area. And it sort of sums up sort of his feelings about society a little bit. He says about it, Machida is a big city, but it has nothing in it in particular. It's a place of decline. I wanted to interpret the destruction that can happen with this kind of anonymous city. So I think in his work, he just keeps referencing what it feels like to go through the world as part of Japan's lost generation. So I don't know. I was really attracted to his work. I wish I had inserted another image. He's got some very, very colorful pieces. And he, again, is another very meticulous artist, adding a bunch of glaze with very small syringes, using not necessarily traditional forms. Those nails sticking up are ceramic on this piece. So he's another one that's just super meticulous, and you want to.
What's the scale of this piece?
This piece was about 24 inches, just a little under 2 feet wide, and then about maybe 16, 17 inches high. And the other work is going to start playing again, sorry. That work is about 2 feet tall or so, 17 inches in that range.
I kind of want to comment on something you said, because it kind of just struck me. I think that we really thought about city life, like this sort of city life versus, sort of rural living, which you can see in some of the images in the show. And I think it's when you start to see artists really think about city living that you see the imagery kind of changes a little bit, quite a bit, or the way the forms are fashioned, they begin to change. And then when you're talking about like sort of rural life, there's this maybe expansiveness, like as far as how things look. So the Machida itself is like a very compacted piece, and thinking about that idea of like layering on top, like especially thinking about where he comes from, which is Tokyo, and it's like all these layers of people, right? All of these, like, whereas when you get to like rural countrysides, there's a bit more, like I think about somebody like Mami Kato and the size of her work and how it just spans, right? But then it weaves together too. So I kind of just had that epiphany, if you can believe it. If you can believe it. But yeah, I like that sort of dynamic. I think that that's the beauty that you see in this show is there's this push and pull, and there's sort of a balance, so to speak, between a couple of varying dynamics. Do we want to go on to the next one? Oh yeah, we're at our slides, our various different slides of prints and paintings. So do you want to talk about thinking about the prints and what prints went in there? Because we actually had a lot of work and then we had to pare it down.
Well,
Yeah.
I can briefly say some things. So about half of the exhibition upstairs, the Sugoi 200 years of Japanese art, is woodblock prints from about 1888, I think is the earliest one, all the way up to 2000, something in
2000,
there. I don't
yeah.
have the dates ahead of me. So it spans the 200 years, and the woodblock prints, of course, are a very popular mode of art in Japan, and we were very lucky that our collection is very robust. I mean, we did have to narrow it down, not just because of the gallery space, but just with consideration to other shows we have coming up that are going to use these, or shows that they have been in recently. Their work's on paper, they're old, they're fragile, so we have to consider that. Now these pictures here, actually the two on whatever the side of the screen would be, I don't know. These are part of the new gifts that we got, just a couple of them from Stan Rajnik and his sister-in-law. And then the work on the left is a new acquisition that you helped acquire. So we talked about how this exhibition is not intended to be a survey of Japanese art over 200 years because we couldn't accomplish that. But we did want to look at it as a survey of our collection and what we could cover in the 200-year span. And so I'm just wondering if you want to talk about your strategies for adding to our collection and how you approach that, whether they're contemporary artists or not.
Sure. So a lot of you know that, when we're looking at what we collect, we're thinking about who the maker is, the time frame, obviously, and how it speaks to our collection. One of the biggest things that I think that we do when we're thinking about acquiring works or talk about with each other even is how the works are in conversation with one another. That's a really important thing for me. I really want people to, one day when someone is here that is not me, 100 years from now, hopefully it'll be 100. I'll get 100 years. You'll see me on here for 100 years. But yeah, I want people to know how those objects work together, how they speak to our community, how they speak to our students. And so, when we're collecting the work, for instance, thinking about Tomokazu Matsuyama, this artist was on our list already to be included in the exhibition. I was actually making plans to borrow his work from his Chicago gallerist. I know him very well as far as the gallerist. And this opportunity came about to be gifted this work. And it was just like, there's no way I'm gonna not say yes. Because one, I had this show coming up. But two, Matsuyama is one of the most up and coming painters, Japanese contemporary painters out there right now. I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity to have him in our collection, but also in the context of other works that we have in our collection, right? So we have like a Jack Beale, which we don't have a slide of, but there's a woman that's smelling flowers, or we have lots of paintings that have flowers in them or people in them. They're doing different things. I'm thinking about like Colleen Browning, her work kind of at the beach. It's kind of chock full of imagery. And so a lot of those considerations go into play when we're acquiring work. Like, it isn't just, is this a work that fulfills the requirement of, it's by a Japanese artist? It's, is this a work that also not only speaks to our collection of holdings that reference the arts of East Asia, but how does it connect to our American collection as well? because we're working really hard to build those bridges and have works in our collection and in our gallery that speak to one another. And I think that's how our sort of collecting focus has been in these years. And I think even my predecessors had lots of thoughts about that. And so I'm just kind of adding on to the already good work that was done. I'm hoping, I'm not saying that my work is good, just so you know. I'm just saying that my predecessor's work was good. I feel like I had to make that distinction. I definitely think that we're doing good work together. But yeah, I'm thinking of it from the sake of who are the people coming after us, right? Like that's the mindset I think that we have to be in, is not just thinking about this present moment, but the future, always looking towards the future and thinking about how people will interpret these works that we bring into our collection, per se. Okay, that was
That was perfect. Thank you.
sorry.
I only really have one question left.
You don't have any more questions? Wow.
I said I have one question left.
Okay.
Okay. What do you want somebody to take away from the exhibition?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you gonna answer it?
Yeah,
too?
I'll answer it.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure she's not putting me on the spot. What I want people to get from this particular show is look at the diversity of imagery and medium that our collection holds. Look at and also maybe think about some of the holes that we have in the show, because we are always looking for, gifts and to sort of like put things in our collection that we don't have that really fulfills some of the gaps that we have. So that's one thing. But also, I really just want people to see the deep appreciation that we have for Japanese art. And I hope that they walk away feeling really inspired by the images that they see or the objects that they see. And I hope that they come back and want more. What about you?
Well, I certainly hope that they learn something or take away some extra information. Obviously, again, we couldn't give them a full history on 200 years of Japanese art. That's an entire college degree. But I kind of just hope they find an artist that they maybe didn't know before that they like, whether it's a contemporary artist or not. That's sort of my favorite thing of going into an exhibition of this nature, where it's got so many different artists in it, to just find somebody and go down that rabbit hole of who's influenced them or who they're influencing, and just to find more artists. The artist here in the center, Hakumaki, is one of my favorites, and this is now the third work we have by him in the collection. So I was excited to get another piece by him. We do have one more thing to talk about
Oh, we do, but we should ask people if they have questions too.
before we talk about the upcoming exhibitions.
Yeah,
Okay.
we should ask if there are any questions. We have some more we want to show you, but are there any questions specifically before we kind of move on?
I have a, you talked about the influence of American culture on, what about the influence of Japanese culture on America? Because it really is impacted, for example, sequential art.
Mhm.
Did you think about that when you were doing this or not?
I think we did. And I mean, that was the struggle for us, because at one point we were like, oh, we could have a whole section of artists that, we could make the case for. But what happened for us is we just ran out of space, and so for me, at the end of the day, to make a more easily, how I want to say, I don't want to say legible, but like a tighter show, right?
Mm-hmm.
A more focused approach was really to sort of stick with artists of Japanese descent, or those that were speaking specifically to Japan. I think the only outlier we had was, oh my goodness, Namjoon Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was there anybody there? Yeah, I think we really just wanted to kind of be very targeted, but you're not wrong. Absolutely. Are there any other questions?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we shut it down. We
That was
answered
easy.
everything that they wanted. Okay, so we have some other things that we want to share with you. So, you know, we have some other shows that are coming that we really would like you to come back and see. So, of course, we have CC Wang, Lines of Abstraction. This is a wonderful show that's coming to us from the Hunter Galleries in New York. It was written up in the New York Times. It has gotten so much great publicity in New York, and we at the KIA are getting this show. They weren't even planning to travel it, but somehow we convinced them to do it. So I'm really excited to have that here. And I believe some years ago, there was a CC Wing show here many years ago. I think this show. Maybe? Yes, she's nodding at me. So we're really excited to show this particular presentation because what it shows are his influences that he had on other artists. He taught like Arthur Chang, who was in our collection, or Arnold Chang was in our collection, and some other really important masters. And then the other show we're doing is called A Bridge Between Two Worlds, works by Wu Jian. And Wu Jian is a Chinese artist that uses folklore in his works. And they are really, this is kind of a little mini survey show that we're going to be doing this fall. It's about 12 years of work, no, 14 years of work. And the reason why you need to know about this is he's an artist that has had projects at MoMA and the Whitney and all of these major institutions, but this is his first like full-on solo show at a museum, an American museum. I know, I thought the same thing. I said, I can't believe that, but you know, places like MoMA and Whitney have acquired his works, but haven't quite dedicated a full-fledged show to them, to him. So I'm really excited to see his work in the context of our collection, what we'll have on view at the time, and then also thinking about him potentially maybe for our collection. We'll see how that works out. You know, I'm looking forward to introducing him to our community. And then
I don't know if Miriam is going to announce or Greg.
Okay.
I don't know who's talking, or maybe we're not talking about.
These are
upcoming
also
programs.
upcoming programs. The other programs that you can see that are affiliated with Sugoi 200 Years of Japanese Art. So I believe there's drumming on the 18th, the sushi making workshop on the 20th, August 8th. There's an ARTbreak. On the 24th, that's when Mommy Kato is coming, so Kato is coming, so I'm excited. I will be there for that with bells and whistles. I hope I see you there. Dr. Brian White is doing an artful evening on the 21st, and then we're doing an anime film screening on the 23rd. So lots of my favorite things. And then, of course, make sure you are on the lookout for our new sightlines, which will also talk about our annual lecture of East Asian art, our Joy Light annual lecture of East Asian art, which this year's speaker is Dr. Frida Merck. And that will be in October. So there's lots for you to do and see and learn here. So I hope that we'll see you again soon. All right, thank you.
Easy breezy. Get rid of it. That was funny that when the thing, the thing. Oh, I was